Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. There's so many ways to make money in real estate investing. Today, we're going to talk about real estate development. Is now a time to consider developing property or coming alongside a developer? If you've ever thought about development or you just want to learn how to pick a great developer, that's what we'll discuss today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. Are you ready to profit in paradise? Hi, it's Robert Helms, and if you think real estate investing means tenants, toilets, and termites, think again. Located just a short plane ride from the U.S., a virtually untouched paradise awaits, the beautiful country of Belize. When you go to Belize with the Real Estate Guys, you'll spend 4 fabulous days discovering one of the most intriguing real estate markets I've ever seen. With its jungle rainforests, pristine beaches, and 81-degree turquoise water, Belize is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Plus, it's considered one of the top 7 tax havens in the world. Belize property is on the rise, and many experts think the best is yet to come. But don't just take my word for it. Come experience Belize firsthand at our upcoming investor field trip. When you join us, you'll discover the many reasons we love Belize, like tremendously undervalued beachfront land, super low taxes, ease of doing business, and so much more. Get the details at realestateguysradio.com. Just click on events. See paradise for yourself. Click events at realestateguysradio.com, and I'll see you in beautiful Belize. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Joining me, as usual, financial strategist co-host Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, a lot of folks get into real estate for different reasons, and some people want to actively get involved and roll their sleeves up. Other people are just totally passive. And today we're going to talk about more the active side. How do you make the jump from real estate investor to real estate developer?
Yeah, it's going to be a great show because, so many people think of real estate, rightfully so, as a cash flow generating machine. I'm going to buy real estate. I'm going to rent it out. I'm going to have a stream of income coming in. The challenge with that is down payments. And so you have to have some kind of a down payment machine. For most people, that's their job.
Yep.
And so they're going to go to work, they're going to live below their means, pay their taxes and save money, and then try to get enough money to do a down payment. We talk about syndication as a way all the time to go out and raise money from other people who have savings and put that to work. And then you go buy properties and you share the stream of income and you build a portfolio of income producing properties with your investors. Of course, people who flip properties, they go out there and they buy a property and they fix it up and they force the equity, what we call force the equity, and then they can pull that equity back out. And sometimes people forget the business they're in and they just keep doubling down on that and they end up with piles of cash and they don't really get it reinvested. Well, development is really just a forced equity strategy, except now you're starting with a raw piece of dirt or, maybe a piece of dirt that has some things done to it that are invisible but make it buildable. And that's a whole different discussion we may be covering today. But the point is it's a way to force equity into your financials so that you can then have money to go do whatever you want to do with, and hopefully you're going to go out and acquire income producing real estate with it.
And so why would you be interested in that? Well, there's a bunch of reasons why today looking at development makes sense. For many years, and this is not common, but for many recent years, you've been able to buy properties in at least the United States market and some neighboring markets at what we call below replacement cost. When the economic catastrophe happened and there were properties that were just zooming down in value, there were people that swooped in and bought properties for less than what it would have cost to buy the land and build the property. Now, that only happens a few times in a typical investor's lifetime, and we're back now to where that's not the case in very many places. So what development does is it allows you to turn dirt into dollars. You take a asset of land, typically, and add to it capital via labor and equipment and the components of the property. And then it's worth more than the combined efforts of those because of the market value. And so you're preserving or capturing that equity as a developer, either to sell to somebody or develop in your own account. There's a gentleman who wrote an amazing book called Construction Funding. Doesn't sound like a great book, but he was a guy who was a builder, developer, and he developed and built strictly in his own account, just for property that he would add value to and keep. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to develop, but that was the way he did, and certainly a way that you can look at developing real estate. So don't tune out because you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to be like a big company that has equipment and that's not necessarily what development is.
No, if you've ever thought about flipping a house and said, hey, it would make sense to flip a house, buy low, sell high. And really, the market is doing the work for you. You're really a speculator. But if you're doing the work, if you're buying the ugly duckling and making it into the beautiful swan, and you're getting the equity out because you put it in, great. Development is exactly the same thing. It's just a bigger project. But, you look at the home builder sentiment index, right? Back in the day, at the very bottom, it was down like 6, 7, 8. It's a scale of 1 to 100, 50 being kind of neutral, anything above 50 meaning bullish.
Right.
I think it's about 60 right now. And you think how far it's come. That means developers are looking, home builders are looking at the landscape going, it makes sense to build. You still have reasonably affordable financing. Some of the challenges that we have to do with the economy, and there's just, maybe not quite as much demand. But if you have the right submarket, if you have the right product at the right price point, the point is now you can take all those components of cost that you were just talking about, Robert, and put them in the blender. And then when you come out and get the finished product and sell it, there's meat on the bone. And because that's there, people are coming out of the woodwork. And it's a time when somebody might say, hey, I may not be able to buy a property and force the rent up to force equity because the rents have already gone up quite a bit. But because the rents are there and the income is proven in the marketplace, I can build a product where I force the equity and then I can sell it at today's current rents if I'm building that kind of a product, and then cash my equity back out. Or to your point, where you just mentioned this other guy, keep it for your own account.
Well, I was just talking with an investor who in their market, the exact problem is there's not enough rental inventory. And so they've got a big line of folks wanting to rent units. There aren't enough units. And so their answer is to syndicate and create some of this inventory. But let's step back a minute, because development doesn't mean you have to take it to its full completion. We know several land developers. All they do is they take raw dirt and turn it into developed lots or developed land. That's real estate development. You have a vision, you have a plan, you go through the process of what we call entitlement, the legalities of making property saleable and buildable, and that could be a 3-week show on its own, but all that process just to get it ready to sell to one of these home buyers.
Right.
That's development. Or you could take a developed lot. It's already been developed by a land developer, and now hire a construction manager, bring on some subcontractors, and build something that you could then sell. There's lots of different ways to quote unquote develop.
We've known people that have literally made millions of dollars telling a story about a piece of dirt. And here's the point. When you're trying to figure out this, if you can just, I know it's hard to do on the radio, but if you can just draw a line like left to right and just imagine every step of the way is an incremental step when you take a piece of raw dirt, no utilities, no entitlements, just completely raw dirt, all the way to a beautiful occupied building. There are many, many, many things that go on. And when you understand every one of those processes, every one of those steps along the way, those incremental steps, is both an entrance point and an exit point. So you can choose when to get in and when to get out. Some people want to come in and they want to do just a little bit and get out and go do something else, and they're experts in that one little area. Other people want to take it from soup to nuts. Other people want to come in pretty late in the game and just do the little, finish it off at the back end. And then other people, we call at the very, very end is who's going to be the takeout person, who's going to own it for the long run. So the life cycle of a piece of property can be very, very long, and there's lots of times before the building ever gets built where you can get in and out and make a profit.
Oh, there sure is. And that profit can look a lot of different ways. Sure, you can just make a profit and pay tax on it and go on and do the next thing. Or you can take property as part of your distribution, if you will. The idea if you take a piece of land and you build 6 houses and you sell 5 of them and you end up with a house.
Right.
That's real estate development. You don't have to be a general contractor. You don't really have to know anything about construction or design. All those folks are available in the right market as long as it pencils.
Well, and that's the other part of it, really. We talk about this in syndication all the time. You don't have to be a property manager. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to be a real estate agent. You have to be an organizer. You have to be somebody who understands everything that needs to be done. And you can hire a consultant to help you do that. And then you have to put a financial model on it so that everybody gets paid to get the work done. And at the end of the day, it makes sense. And that's really what being an entrepreneur is about. And when you're a real estate entrepreneur or developer, that's really what you have to learn how to do. And it can seem very daunting, but the great news is that pretty much everything you need to know how to do, somebody else already knows how to do, and it's just a matter of you amassing the right advisors and then putting a financial plan together that makes sense. And I think the point of it is right now in today's market, for the first time in a long time, development is making sense financially because of where the market is at. These things are cyclical, and we're at the part of the cycle where developers are starting to come out of the woodwork. So we thought it would be a fun time to talk about this. How do you go from being a mom and pop investor to actually going out and being a real estate developer?
Our guest today is exactly that, a real estate developer that's worked in many, many parts of the business, different product types, different markets internationally. When we come back, you'll meet real estate developer Beth Clifford today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
If you want to retire in the next 5 years or less through real estate, then please pay close attention. My name is Brad Sumrock, and I've taught thousands of my students how to replace their incomes, quit their jobs, and retire faster than they ever thought possible by not investing in single-family homes. You see, there's a secret to retiring fast with little risk, and it has nothing to do with being a landlord, fixing toilets, or flipping houses. The secret is multifamily apartment buildings. Starting from scratch with zero experience, I managed to pocket over $1 million in cash and retire from my 17-year corporate job within 3 years of apartment investing. Now, this is not your typical no money down real estate training. We believe in smart, hard work for intelligent people. So if you're good with your finances, have a decent job, or saving your money, and you're looking for a change and getting out of the rat race, then investing in apartment buildings might just be the answer you've been looking for. Send an email right now to sumrock@realestateguysradio.com to get the details of my upcoming training event, and you'll also receive my free training webinar, Apartment Investing for Beginners. That's Sumrock, SUMROK, @realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Kendra Todd, winner of The Apprentice, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. No matter how you're listening, we appreciate you. You can tell a friend about the Real Estate Guys. Today, we're talking about real estate development. Is that a way to force equity? Is there an opportunity? And to share some thoughts with us, let's meet international real estate developer Beth Clifford. Hey, Beth.
How you doing, Robert?
Great. Always good to have you on the program.
And it's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Well, you're a wealth of knowledge. We started thinking about with around the world, we are seeing less opportunities to buy at less than replacement cost, which was a great opportunity for a while. And so now that prices are up, development starts to make sense. But not everyone is cut out to be a developer. So let's start. I don't know if you've ever even done this. Talk about how you got started in the development side of the real estate business.
So I came out of a Wall Street and I came out of a technical background. And so my passion has always been about executing things. It's like I'm an executing kind of person. So from taking high-level strategies and making them work. And so I had done that in the software and technology fields. And then my passion has always been, I think, in the 3D, and I love building things. So I've always loved to build. And so in my mid-30s, I changed my career. And what I did is I leveraged all of my IT process and execution background, which I had built for 20 years, which was all focused into financial services and into process and management consulting. And I said, what if I were to go take everything I know about that and then leverage that into something that I have a passion about, which is to go build things? Because at the end of the day, building things is just an enormous puzzle of putting the right people in the right place at the right time with the right resources. And so all of the intellectual muscle that I had created over 20 years of figuring out how to create a process for things and maximizing them and putting the right people into the right chairs were all valuable skills that were required. Now all you needed to do when you transitioned from that prior career into the construction or development was you just now need to learn the vernacular and you need to learn the entire business process of development, which is maybe a little bit different than, for instance, what I had known in the past was, how do I go execute and build infrastructure for Pacific Gas and Electric? How do I go build a semiconductor? Well, that was how I transitioned, is I then transitioned into building semiconductor facilities. But prior to that, I was doing, how do you go do all of the infrastructure for Pacific Bell and help them build all of their broadband systems throughout all of California? So how do you go take that knowledge, that building of a team, and put it all together and now focus it onto the development.
Well, and it really, in many ways, is the same skill set. And I think that's part of what figuring out, how you're going to play in the real estate world. What are the skills you already have? And what are you missing? What do you have to acquire? So in this case, the construction side of it, I mean, certainly you've been around that, but to now learn those disciplines, surround yourself with those kinds of people, and pretty soon you're speaking that language.
You are. And so, I mean, again, to me, it's always, you think, if you understand the big levels, right? So if you can understand the highest level of abstraction of the business problem that you're trying to solve, then you've got to break that all down to understand what are all the pieces that breaks into them in order to go fulfill that. So if you're going to go build a single family residence, okay, that's a simple way to get started, right? So you're going to need some land. You're going to need to go build a building. You're going to probably want some utilities, and how are those utilities going to get done? And so if you were just sit back and you start to break all of those individual pieces down, most people with a good bottle of Cabernet and a big white sheet of paper and a pencil, if they really think about it for long enough and concentrate on it, they'll come up with 60 to 80% of the things that are required to go do that.
Yeah.
Then they go find a professional or somebody who's done it before and say, well, am I close? What else? What am I missing? What did I think about? What's the complexities I don't know about? But you're well on the way if you can start just chunking it down into the individual pieces, and then look at the individual pieces and say, is that something I know about? Is it something I'm proficient at? Am I the best in class in that? And to me, it's like, if you're not best in class in it, then you need to go build a partnership to go find the person who is best in class.
Well, such a good point, because being a developer, it's almost like being an executive producer of a movie or being the general manager of a team. You're not running the plays. You're not throwing the ball. You're stepping back up, and there's so many moving parts. The great news is all of those key people and those key disciplines that are necessary. There's people out there. There's general contractors. There's subcontractors. There's interior and exterior designers. There's all kinds of folks that can help. You have to be the strategic thinker and the visionary to pull off the project.
Yep. And you bring up a great way of thinking about it. I always think of it more, I think of myself as that I'm the leader of the orchestra. That's all I'm doing. And I'm setting the beat, and this is the music that we're going to play, and I'm going to go set the beat, and I'm going to make sure that we have all the right people in the right chairs. And so, yes, I'm going to have the very best violinist, the first chair violinist, but I'm going to have 7 other violinists as well. And then it's just directing and putting the right people in the chair. The good news is you become, as a developer, one of the things you've got to go do is you've got to go sell your product. And so for some people, that is a real barrier. People don't like to sell, right? So a lot of people are like, I don't want to sell, right? Because that's a very different animal than being the developer.
Yes.
But you absolutely have to build a team of salespeople. The other is, as a developer, though, you're a person who is giving purchase orders to people. You're buying. There's a very different relationship, and when many people feel very comfortable being the procurement officer or the buyer, and trust me, when you go walk around a town and you go in and you say, look, I'm a developer, I'm going to go build X, Y, and Z, and I need your help, that attracts people.
Yeah.
And it can attract good people and bad people, but it is, by the laws of attraction, people are going to want to go do business with you. There are subcontractors who want to work. There are plumbers who want to work. There are carpenters who want to work. All of it's not hard, because that is ingrown into all of the people who you want in their team. They're out there looking for work.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for developers. They're looking for people to work with. And so then the question is, you as a developer, who are you? How do you show up? How do you entice a great team to come on board and join your team? How do you compensate them for it? How do you set that vision? That's really your role then as a developer.
We're sitting here on one of your projects with hundreds of thousands of square feet being built and crews of dozens and dozens and dozens of people everywhere. And that leadership is evident. You can see that the folks here are doing a great job of the individual job they do. You take them all together, it is the orchestra. And so together the project moves, but any one of them is just performing a very small function. So how do you, as the leader, keep track of all that?
team. So, I mean, it all starts again, which is the general vision and setting the course of where we're going. And so on our projects, what we do at the very highest level is we don't know all of the little pieces. We can't know all the little pieces, but what we do know is we know the direction that we're heading in. So yes, so very strategic goals. We're going to go build 100,000 square feet of real estate that looks like this, and it's going to be done over this time frame. And that's the general goal that we're going to, and it's going to be done in 12 months. And that's what we're looking to go do. Then you start building a management team that can start putting flesh on that skeleton that you've defined. And so now more detail gets defined. Well, what does it look like? Is it 3-story or 2-story? And this is, sales and marketing and the construction team working together to come up with what we always call a minimum viable product. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're going to produce is the dog food that a dog is going to eat.
Right.
And so what dogs are in your market? What do those dogs want to eat? What is the price point that they're willing to pay for that particular product? And then you on the other end have to go put together the team and the product in order to make those two things meet. Then you come up with what we call MVP, minimum viable product. Now your minimum viable product is defined. Now it's there for you to go test that proof of concept. Number one, with can I attract the buyer to that minimum viable product with renderings and not maybe even a physical product at that point. So now you're spending some time with artist renderings and artist renditions or drawing with your toe in sand or however you're going to go communicate to your potential buyers what that product looks like and say, would you be willing to buy this if I was able to deliver it to you on this date in the future at this price? And see what they come back and tell you. No, I don't like that. I need more square footage. Or no, I would want, 2 sinks in the master bath. Or no, I need a living room and 3-bedroom. And it's not a 2-bedroom market, it's a 3-bedroom market. So that's where you start testing your product in the market with the buyer. And then on the other side, that has to go back into your production team to go say, now that we're going to go make a change to the minimum viable product, how does that address, can we do it, same price, land, etc. And you've got to keep recasting the cost of your product and then the value out the end of the retail of that product. And is there a margin in the middle which allows you to continue to move forward? Because at the end of the day, you've got to create a profit and you've got to have some kind of an economic model that works for everybody. And then we're also going to assume that you may need to raise money. So then there's another partner that gets brought into this, which is a partner who may be a money partner, maybe a debt partner, an equity partner. So then you've got to layer all of that into it as well, which is not only do you as a developer make money, but then who else do you need to share whatever margins come out with? And so then that's a whole nother matrix that needs to be created.
So there's obviously a lot, but this is a great mindset that it's not if you build it, they will come. Hey, I own real estate. I know that there's a particular type of housing that I could, build and people would buy. You have to test this minimum viable product. You have to make sure that you can deliver at the price. I mean, yeah, maybe you have a great product, but it can't be delivered financially. Well, then it can't be delivered, right?
Correct.
So you really have to test for all those things.
And if you go through, I used to be in Silicon Valley, and it's not true right now, but it was true before the recession. Look at how much see-through building there was in Silicon Valley.
Right.
And that was all that mindset, which was, and everybody was tilting up buildings at $75 a square foot, and they're like, well, of course it will get absorbed, right? And look at Miami, right? Look at the high rises in Miami, right? And so everybody's like, yeah, I can go build it, and oh, sure, I can go build a building at $150 a square foot, but if the market isn't going to absorb it in that time frame, in order for you to actually get it either retailed out or leased, then you're lost.
Right.
The bank's going to own your property.
Well, here's one of the things we always ask. How many days as a developer do you want to own a property you've built from the time that it gets its certificate of occupancy until it sells?
I actually think you should measure it in hours.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Right? You don't want to be holding that stuff.
No, you don't. So you want that to be like 3 hours.
Right. So the idea of doing the research up front makes a ton of sense. In this project specifically, you haven't built anything until it's sold. That's like the ultimate protection.
It is. So certainly it was a lot of minimum viable product thinking. It was coming up with an economic model where you could build something that had the ability to remove risk. And for me, the way you remove risk is you shorten time frames and you maximize and make sure there's maximum value in the product itself.
Yeah.
That's the critical key of a developer is you've got to, the more spec product or product that hasn't been sold that you put down on the ground is your risk, because if it can't get absorbed in the time frame, then you're going to get caught holding the note. So you've got to time how you put your product onto the ground and make sure that it's sequencing exactly with the time that you're going to be selling the product.
Well, it's also designing the product for that dog you talked about, that buyer that's there. And many of your projects do exactly who that dog is, right? And they're different dogs in different projects, different markets, different types of property. You've done commercial property, residential property, resort property, and those are all different dogs, different people that are interested in the property. But you have to make some assumptions about the market, learn who those people are. I mean, it might be someone listening is in a market where there just isn't enough housing stock. So they know, okay, there is a demand, there is a need for housing stock. That doesn't mean you can just go out and build anything and have it work financially.
Well, and our model, and so we're a little bit different in the way that we think about things. We almost always go into a market and we look at what is working and what isn't in the market. And then we look at it and say, what if we were to do something a little bit different? Like, what would we do? What would it look like if we introduced a different product class into this market? What if we were to introduce a different type of luxury product? I mean, for instance, it was just a really simple project and a really small project, but we ended up doing some redevelopment of historic homes and doing them in a little bit of a different way. But our market was absolutely Class A, and these were multi-million-dollar houses in the DC area. But we ended up kind of winning House of the Year, but we did it because we clearly understood who our buyer was.
Right.
And we went after that buyer. That buyer was a CEO, a working CEO with more than likely a stay-at-home and a very highly social person. And so we defined and created these houses that were really set up for those old-time, formal, elegant, entertaining CEO, gracious people.
Yep.
Because if you go look at most of the big box 10,000 square foot homes that are out in most of the areas, those have just turned into great big houses with big family rooms that are just big buildings that they just kind of blow up air. I mean, they were originally 4,000 square foot buildings that they just pump up with air,
right,
and you end up with a 10,000 square foot building, but that has no greater utility than the
more
4,000.
functionality.
There's no
right?
more function. It's just that your family room went from 500 square feet to 1,500 square feet.
Right.
And so that's the only difference in it. And so we created a very different class of multi-million-dollar house where you had private entertainment quarters in the front part of the house so that you could invite 24 of your best friends over for a formal dinner and have their own restroom area and their own party area, and they would never come back into your home.
Right.
And those turned out to be the winning buildings. And we were selling those at a little bit, we were selling them at a premium, but we were selling those and turning them in less than a month after that we turned them over.
Wow.
Whereas the big box 10,000 square foot buildings would just sit there because it didn't have a definable dog. It was just, those were any dog that was willing to eat $1.5 to $2 million worth of dog food.
Yeah.
That was it. We knew exactly who our dog was. And they were willing to pay 2.5 for the same square footage.
Well, there you go. That's the other part. When you take that different approach and you build something that is specifically in mind for that dog, that avatar, then they will pay a premium for it because it is, you're speaking their language directly to them.
And they found the value in it. They weren't, and I personally, this is just my own personal investment philosophy, is I'm never involved where you're racing to the bottom.
Right.
Like, it's like when I don't want to be the low cost leader. I don't want to be racing to the bottom of the pile and try to go fight it out with other developers. And I personally don't think that's a win-win, because when you look at a boutique developer, if you're going to be a developer and if you're going to go out, the big boys will kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to a Pulte Homes or any of the big production guys, they've got supply chains that you will never be able, you can never beat them because their cost of goods sold, you can never replicate. So they're always going to be able to come in under you at 10 to 20 to 30% under your cost of goods sold. and they have access to money that you don't have access to. They've got access to institutional money. And so their cost of capital is going to be in the 2 to 4%. So if you're a boutique developer, you can't, I don't believe, running to the bottom is any place where you can compete. So I stay out of all of those markets. And so instead, I look at where the production builders are, where the mid-level developers are, and then I look at it and I say, where can I go take a mid-level market and put a branded feature on top of it that allows me to potentially increase the retail price of my product 10 to 20% of value, but I can keep my cost of goods sold in line with everybody else. So then that to me then allows me to manage my risk better because I've got a higher profit margin. And even in the event that markets start to collapse, because what your retail market isn't based on what you think that today is your product is. It's what that buyer is willing to pay on that particular day.
Always.
And I've been in markets where markets have turned in 3 months, where a market was hot, where a market was trading at $700 a square foot, and then all of a sudden a bunch of demand comes in, some negative pressure comes in for whatever, employment numbers come in, whatever, all things that have nothing that you could ever do as a developer.
Right.
This is all market oriented.
Out of your control.
Interest rates change, employment numbers change, some regulation in the county changes, all things that you could not have ever anticipated. And so then all of a sudden your profit margins are going to be eroded if all of a sudden there's competition in the market that you never thought was there. So I like to keep my time frame short. I like to keep my margins as high as I possibly can. I like to build, for I love your word, which is the avatar, to clearly understand who that avatar is and market specifically to them and invite them to a very specific product, and then to very clearly manage the implementation and the production of that product to make sure that you get that done on time, in budget, with the quality that you need, and also with the safety to make sure that nobody is ever injured on your product. And that's one of the 4 values that we have as a developer, is we manage every one of our properties based on those 4 metrics, which is nobody can get injured on our property. We're going to deliver it on time, on budget, with the quality metrics that we provide.
Our guest today is international real estate developer Beth Clifford. More when we come back. Plus, we'll play real estate trivia next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Memphis is famous for being the home of the king of rock and roll, but it's also the king of cash flow. If you're looking for affordable cash flow properties, it's hard to beat Memphis. Get your portfolio rocking and more cash flowing your way by calling Terry Kerr at Mid-South Home Buyers. Terry's the king of turnkey properties. Contact Terry through the resource section at realestateguysradio.com. And be sure to order Terry's tips for turnkey rental property investing report. It's free. Just send your request to turnkey@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Patrick from Paradigm Life. I've recently written an ebook called The Perpetual Wealth Strategy. The ebook discusses one of the best investments, real estate, combined with a financial vehicle used by the wealthy, many U.S. presidents, famous actors, athletes, and even Houdini himself. You can download the ebook for free in the resources section on the Real Estate Guys Radio homepage. Don't wait. Go download it now.
Hi, this is Anthony Melchior from Hotel Impossible, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. We're talking today with real estate developer Beth Clifford about jumping into development. Does that make sense? Is there an opportunity for you to be a developer? Can you come alongside a developer? Does it make sense for you? Lots of good stuff before we get back to the interview with Beth. It's time to play Real Estate Trivia, your chance to win a prize by knowing today's real estate trivia question, which of course will have something to do with development, not just any development either, a really big real estate development. As soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send it to us to trivia@realestateguysradio.com, trivia@realestateguysradio.com. First person to get the right answer is going to win a copy of Tom Wheelwright's great book, Tax-Free Wealth. That can be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the Real Estate Guys, we were talking apartments and we asked this: who was the landlord for Laverne and Shirley in the TV show. You remember Laverne and Shirley was a spinoff from Happy Days, Milwaukee brewery workers. Anyway, their landlord was actually a landlady. Her name was Edna Babish, played by Betty Garrett. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. The largest private real estate development in the United States is underway right now. What's it called? Yep, name the largest real estate development in the U.S. It is mammoth. It is under construction this minute. What's it called? If you know or just want to take a guess, send us your best answer to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. First person with the right answer gets a copy of the great book, Tax-Free Wealth, by Rich Dad Advisor Tom Wheelwright. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're on the job site with Beth Clifford, international real estate developer, and I appreciate you taking time out today to talk with us about this. You know, a lot of folks look at development and they come through different doors, as I like to say. They might come through the construction side, or they might come through the sales side, or they might come through the design side, where there's something that attracts them to that. Today, we've got the situation where there's a need for certain product types in certain markets, and so the idea of going through that process you described is critical. Let's talk about it from the other side, from kind of the, if you will, the personal development side, going from investor to real estate developer. Talk about when you made that jump and what things, looking back, you would suggest people pay attention to.
That's a great question. The leap becomes one as a developer. And it's funny because I'll go in, people will ask me, like, what do you do for a living? I'll be like, I'm a real estate developer. And then most people either look at that as being a worthy career.
Yeah.
Or other people think that you're absolutely the worst person in the world.
I couldn't get a job either, so I became a real estate developer, right?
That's right. That used to be like in Silicon Valley when everybody didn't have a job, you were a consultant.
Yes.
But anyways, so I think it's all about really, when you take on that mantle, the question becomes one of what is your stature and how are you going to perform within a community? Because a real estate developer ultimately is going to go into some community and is going to be taking some precious resource known as land and then be building their dream on top of it.
Right.
So I think a lot of it becomes one of, I would ask people to have this conversation with themselves before they do it, which is, what is your presence going to be like as you walk that process?
Yeah.
So are you going to come in and be like, well, I'm the biggest elephant in the block, and so I'm the biggest elephant, and I have my ideas, and everybody's going to have to follow my ideas, and I'm just that's the way I'm going to play. That's one way you can go do it. Another way you can go do it, which is you can come in and you can, ultimately, you're almost always going to have to go through approvals. You're going to have to go through neighbors. You can't do this alone. So you cannot just go buy a piece of land and go build your dream. I mean, one single family residence, that's one thing. But if you go into a community and you're going to go build a subdivision, or you're going to go build a downtown center, or you're going to go build a big multifamily place, you know, you've got neighbors, you've got constituencies, you've got a lot of people who want to give you input and who also want to prevent you from doing what you're going to go do. So I think it really is one of, at the beginning, I would ask any person who wants to be a developer for them to decide what their personality will be and how they are going to behave throughout the entire process. Because ultimately, I think you can play it many ways. I think you can play it as a strong man and play that way. And I've seen many people play that way and be very, very successful in doing it that way.
Right. We're really good at this. We're coming in and we're going to do this because we're really good at it.
We're really good, and this is the way we're going to do it. And we know this is the way. And so, you know, it's going to be 95% my way and 5% your way. And that's the way we're going to go do it.
Right.
There's another way, which is you kind of go the other way, which is, look, we kind of know the way that we're going to go do it, but we're open to some input and we're looking to go, how do we can go build teams and to go model things into it. I think the thing that's most important is that you're consistent with however you go do that, so that you don't end up one day in a public hearing being it's kind of my way or the highway, but then the other times you're kind of like, I'm looking for it. So I think what's most important is that you're consistent with the way and the methodology that you as the leader, the developer, is going to go do it. And then ultimately that has to go all the way down into your team about how do they present themselves. Because take another instance, which is you could be the kind of developer who comes in and goes, look, I'm really trying to find a way. I'm trying to thread the needle here with everybody. I'm trying to find the right mix of yield and what it's going to look like. And yeah, I will put the art center in the middle of this project, and I'm really working to put together a coalition so that it really becomes the best for a community. And if you as the leader is that way, but then you've got people who work within your team and people on your team that can be subtractors who are like, well, no, it's our way, or do it. If it's that inconsistency, right, then you end up with a real problem. And so many things that you don't want to deal with. I mean, being a developer on a day-to-day basis is nonstop tyranny of the urgent of things that need to be done. You're going to run out of hammers. You're going to run out of nails. You're going to have people not show up for work. People are going to steal from you. It's going to be nonstop problems are going to be, whack-a-mole is going to be your day. But the other is the things that will really derail your project, I believe, are when you start to get people who want to actively fight you. And I came out of working in California where people don't want any development and where NIMBY goes on. And I've worked in a lot of those constituencies. And so it projects something you've really got to think through, particularly it's one thing if you're going to be a one and done and you go into one community and you're going to be like, I'm going to do one project, then I'm done.
Right.
But if you really look at it, you say, no, I live in this community. I want to go build, I'd like to go build 1,000 units over the next 10 years. Then you better figure out who you're going to be, how you're going to go get that done, how you're going to build the right team who's going to go get it done, because you don't do it alone. You never do it alone.
Well, I've had the opportunity to watch you go into several markets where you take the approach of let's find out how they do it here rather than I'm going to show you how I do it here. Even though you got tons of experience, you come in with fresh eyes, you want to learn, and then you put together those teams that behave that way, right? One of the consummate lessons I've learned from you all these years is when you hire the best, it doesn't cost you more, it makes you more.
It always makes you money. That's always been my experience, because a couple of my philosophies are you will make or lose your entire project based on your project plan. Before you ever build anything, you can never make it up in the field.
Right.
So if you've got a pro forma and you think, well, maybe later when I go bid out the project, I can save 5% here, or it's not going to cost me as much there. The tyranny of the urgent, the market is going to change. You're going to make it or lose it on your design.
Yep.
My personal is good design never costs you more money. It actually makes you money.
Yep.
We just opened up a beautiful project down here, which is a big great house. It's 22,000 square feet. I won't disclose what we built it for. But at the end of the day, when people went into it, they're like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful, elegant, gracious, gorgeous building I've ever seen. But if I were to take a talented eye to go look at that building, and I was showing it to somebody the other night, I said, I want you to really go look at this building. This building has almost no accoutrements on top of the building. What makes this building beautiful is the size of the volumes are correct, and that they were done correctly.
Right.
The roof height and the orientations and the size of the windows, and using Palladian and classical architecture techniques and good building materials done with high quality, you don't need to add anything to it. It's just like a beautiful woman in a beautiful dress, right? You don't need to add anything, right? Like all she needs is a bangle. Like she doesn't need $500,000 worth of jewelry on top of her. But a beautiful woman in a beautiful dress is all she really needs. And so when you don't start out, when the structure isn't right, when the design isn't right, when the quality isn't right, and then what you've got to go do is put mud on top of mud, and pieces on top of pieces, and drapes on top of drapes, and things on top of things, and all of those things end up, you have to maintain them and take care of them and buy them, and they turn into ugliness. Somebody told me the other day when we were in that building, they said the true elegance and true beauty comes from simplicity.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to food. It goes everywhere, right? If you go back to it, think about all the things that are truly beautiful. Things that are truly beautiful are things that are most simple.
All right, good stuff. Well, it's been a wealth of information as always, and we appreciate it. Final question is, you've got someone looking to make the leap and take on development. What's the thing you wish you knew when you started?
You can never underestimate how hard it is.
Yeah.
You cannot. There's just so many pieces. And if you think I've been doing development for 20 years. I probably have developed over $3 billion worth of real estate, more than that, way more than that. And I learn every day.
Right.
And so if you think you're going to know it all, you will never know it all. You will learn it every day. And it will always be harder. So don't ever underestimate how hard it will be.
All right, good stuff. There's Beth Clifford. If you want to hang out with Beth, come on the Investors Summit at Sea 2017. It'll be our 15th year, her 14th year on the Investors Summit. Always good to hang out with investors and talk real estate. I love it.
It's my favorite year. It's the most. It's hard because it's so many great people there.
Yeah.
But everybody with the same mindset. It's like so encouraging. I learned so much on the summit. It's like my education time, so it's brilliant.
Good stuff. Well, Beth, thanks for your time, and a great job around here. It's looking great.
Thank you, Robert.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Hi, I'm Steve Forbes. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. Listen up.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Make sure and join us for the Secrets of Successful Syndication in September. All the details available at realestateguysradio.com under events. My goodness, what a powerhouse, Beth Clifford.
Yeah, it's been so fun over the years watching her work, taking just nothing and turning it into something. And the way she does it through teams and people and business models and leadership, it's just phenomenal. And big projects, little projects, it really hasn't mattered. And through all different markets, we've seen her go into completely foreign markets where she knew nobody and get established at a very high level. The way she puts together her teams and organizes her projects has really been a lot of fun to watch. And of course, at the end of the day, you produce profits for yourself and your investors.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about Beth is that she has such a variety of background that if you try to figure out who's the perfect person to be a developer, well, it's a variety of backgrounds. You can come through development through the door of the trades, which many people do. A lot of construction folks go on to be developers. You can come through the door of sales, or if you're a salesperson looking for something to go sell, you can come through the door of being an investor. I'm an investor looking for product. How do you buy product wholesale? Well, you develop it yourself. Lots of different doors. And of course, she, as we've learned, has worn a ton of hats in the whole real estate game.
I think the thing is really the core skill set, and we talked about earlier at the top of the show, is being an organizer and then learning how to put the financial model. But the third thing is you have to have the ability to communicate with all the people at the table, right? You can't come in and know nothing. You have to know enough to be able to communicate. You have to understand what the people are saying. You have to understand what you're looking at, because you have to make business decisions. Ultimately, as the developer, you're responsible for the performance of the team and the success or failure of the project. So you have to have that fundamental knowledge. And again, that can be intimidating. But if you were to say, hey, I'm interested in this, how would I start? You might start by being a passive investor in a developer's project. But, like you did, Robert, kind of stick your nose under the tent, start paying attention, go to the meetings, read everything, really care, and begin to pick up the lingo. You might take a bit role. Maybe you have a skill set where you get to get close to something and you get to be involved in it to a degree, whether that's sales or marketing or construction consulting. Depending on what your particular background is or who you might know. A lot of different ways for you to begin to get to understand how to communicate all that. And then I think the other big skill set, which of course I've seen Beth just excel at, is the leadership, is the ability to drive the team towards production deadlines, get things done on time, on budget, make it happen. Because ultimately, that's what the whole team needs, is somebody who's going to be the captain of the ship and make it happen and push it over the finish line.
Absolutely. And so your mission is to figure out, is development somewhere in your future? A lot of people want to be real estate developers. They don't necessarily understand what it involves and entails. And sometimes the answer is, well, no, I'm going to leave that to the professional. But because of the market and because of the timing and because of the opportunities today in lots of real estate markets, at least worth considering. We always say one of your best resources is the people around you. Who do you know and who knows you and how do you know them? Maybe between you and a couple other folks, you can figure out how to go bring a great product into the market, whether that means reselling it or just developing inventory for yourself.
Yeah. It's a great time to consider it. It's a way to get some equity out of a marketplace that you might consider to be a little hot. People are concerned, are we at a peak? Is this feeling a lot like 2006, 2007? In some markets, yes. Some markets, it's pretty high. And are rents going to continue to go up as they've been going up? Maybe, maybe not, right? We don't know. And we've got a presidential election coming up in the United States. Whoever knows what the Fed's going to do and how that's going to affect markets. There's just so many uncertainties going on in a marketplace. But one thing is certain. People will always need real estate, and populations are growing. People are always going to need more real estate. Real estate is going to have to be retooled, rebuilt. From a development standpoint, just think about it, right? If you were 150, 200 years ago, how many wagon makers and liveries were there, and all those things had to be redone, right? Or you look at these places where these factories and these downtown places, and now they're lofts, right? They had to get rebuilt, redevelopment. I mean, redevelopment is a big part of development too.
It absolutely is. Change of use. There's such great opportunity within this. So hopefully today's show at least opened up your mind to the possibilities of what a developer does and can do and where there may hold some future for you. Big thanks to Beth Clifford for taking time out of her insanely busy schedule to share with us. She is often a featured speaker at the Secrets of Successful Syndication, and we know for sure she'll be joining us for the 15th Annual Investors Summit at Sea, April 1st through the 9th, 2017. It will be our 15th summit. It'll be Beth's 14th summit. So come on out, say hi to us, say hi to Beth, get on the ship. The Investors Summit at Sea, details on our website at realestateguysradio.com. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers, low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct, asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.